y'all, it's the Kings. Today we're going to be talking about homesteading when you have not grown up on a homestead. When you have no experience whatsoever. So, let's begin. What would you like to say?
Hi. That's all I got.
Funny.
Thought it was funny.
I think there's this notion that if you don't grow up on a farm or a homestead, then you just can't do it. If you're not inheriting land that's pre-made, ready for you to farm or homestead on, then just get out because you can't do it. And that's just not the case at all. And there's this like growing movement of young adults. I think it started when we were in college, really, of this millennial generation, a group of us, I'll say us, we're millennials.
Our people.
Yes. Who look at how our parents lived, who looked at how our grandparents lived, and then think about like however old our grandparents are, maybe at the beginning of their lives, or maybe their parents.
Or maybe you were blessed to know your great-grandparents.
That's what I mean. Yeah, and know, that's what I'm saying. Like, even if you didn't know them personally, maybe you knew stories about them, and maybe that, just your history and hearing those stories, maybe that inspired you. I know it inspired us.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways. Hearing my grandmother's stories of growing up, and they did not have a farm in the city because they lived in downtown Savannah in a big, beautiful house off Forsyth Park. But in the summers, they would go to the country, which is now where one of the malls is, and that was their summer farm. And I think that was common in a lot of middle-class families at that time. Did your family farm? No. I don't. Well, I'm sure your grandfather from the Appalachian Mountains did. They would have had to.
Well, I'm sure. They probably did a lot of things.
Yeah, but you never talked to him about that.
No.
Okay. Oh, gosh.
There
Pearl.
she is.
Pearl.
Hey, girl.
Y'all, Pearl the puppy. She's a piece of work. Anyway, if you hear barking, grunting, growling, it's Pearl.
Scratching.
Yes. She's our Great Pyrenees German Shepherd puppy for anyone who hasn't heard about her or seen her. And, whoo, she's a handful. But she sure is fun and cute.
She knows what she's doing. She's got more farming in her than any of us.
Oh, yes. Y'all, she helps us put up the chickens. Like, naturally. At 10 weeks old.
10 weeks old.
It's incredible.
She puts the chickens up.
It's amazing. I thought she was like trying to eat them, but
Nope.
It turns out like I've watched her a few times and she knows what she's doing. It's so cool. Anyway, so maybe you had that like look into the past. Maybe you didn't know your grandparents or whatever, but
Or maybe you just have a connection to the land and you can't explain it.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we grew up in Savannah. We grew up in your typical suburban areas. There was nothing. My mother gardened. I think your mother gardened, right?
Yeah.
But didn't really grow vegetables, either of them. Did yours? No. Pearl has a toy now. We try real hard for it to be quiet.
They can't hear that.
Yes.
Keep talking. Go on. Just act like it ain't happening.
Yes.
Come on. Here we go.
Okay. Anyhow. So, my point is, we had a very typical suburban middle-class family upbringing. And I don't know, I've rode horses.
Yes.
And when you ride horses, you're on land, typically. You're out and...
You're dealing with animals that aren't dogs or cats.
Correct. That are...
I mean, at a minimum, there she is.
Girl.
Hey, girl. Oh. So, basically, Kira had much more, interaction with animals that were not dogs and cats. Your typical kind of setup in the everyday, generic, quote-unquote, American upbringing. So she was already exposed to that. And then she got out of that because, at some point she had to make a choice between that and soccer and, chose soccer.
Well, and riding
that's a lot of
horses
fun.
when you don't have them in your...
Yes.
It's expensive.
It's expensive. So, got to make choices. Things happen. And then we go to college, and I discovered the agriculture school of the University of Georgia. It's a beautiful thing. And Kira decides to go work at a barn. And so while she goes and works at a barn, and then, of course, I naturally fall into barns, horses, all that fun stuff because I want to hang out with my girlfriend. And, I loved it. And it was like like our gateway drug.
It really was.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know, I'm sure not every college has this, but Georgia has, University of Georgia has electives, horse riding electives. So I think she's
kickboxing.
She's getting your
Those are my
shoes.
flip-flops.
Yeah, Pearl. So, yeah, kickboxing. So I hadn't touched a horse in 8 years. And when I started working, yes, Pearl's under our bed now. Just give y'all a visual of noises. So I thought an elective, learning about horses, that'd be a great intro back into them, in addition to working with them, because I can walk like a horse. I always have been. So when I was little, and horse lessons are expensive, I would work off my rides at the barns that would let me. So I would clean stalls, I would clean paddocks, I would clean tack, I would groom horses, I would do all the things to work off my 1 hour lesson, which was a really good confidence booster and life lesson for me, because I'm talking, I was like young, like I was 8 to 12 at that time that I was riding a whole bunch. So anyhow, the elective, I mean, there was people in my classes who had never touched a horse in their entire lives. So if horses interest you, it doesn't matter at what age.
It might be at your local university.
What?
I mean, truly, I said it might be available at your local university.
Yes, look there. It was a wonderful class. And of course there were things that I was like, yeah, this is dumb. Duh, people know this. But if you've never been around that, there's a big learning curve.
It's a dog that's like 1,500 pounds.
And I got graded for riding horses. It was fabulous.
Yeah, did you fail?
Shut up. No, I didn't. I did get an A-. So.
And you were so mad.
I was really angry about that.
No. Me and college roommate were totally responsible for the
Y'all made me miss classes.
Oh, no.
Because y'all are jerks.
It happens.
No, it was when it was cold and rainy, and it was an 8 o'clock class.
Oh, trust me. No, we leveraged the weather and situation for sure, but it was definitely our fault.
Girl.
So, we had to pause that for a second, and now we're coming back. Basically, getting introduced to horses was like a gateway drug for us. It was, well, not for us, for me. I mean, Kira was already into it. She had been around horses since she was a small child. I had no experience with horses whatsoever till I was, I think, 20, I think is when I started getting into it, because Kira got a job at a barn. She started doing all that, so I kind of followed her through that whole process. And it's amazing to me to this day how many people ask her, how did you get your husband to like horses? I love horses. I really do. And there's a difference in loving riding horses and what kind of riding, and do you like to go out on trail rides? Do you like to ride around in circles on the arena and do jumps and all that fun stuff? Or do you just like to do all the things that, come with horses? Like, I just love the responsibility. I love the feeding and the brushing and the fixing the fences that they break, because Sava's a butthole and she breaks everything, and it just I love all of that. I love the whole setup, the whole mindset, the whole kind of lifestyle that comes with it, and that just very quickly, for us at least, turned into, we had horses. I had a horse. Kira had a horse. I had a horse. We bought them separately. Kira moved back to Savannah. I stayed in Athens. I had my horse up there. She had hers down here. I brought mine down here. She unfortunately colicked there shortly afterwards. But then we got another one right after that. And that's, you have your options of working the barn, paying off your board, just paying money for it. That's another thing that I know taught Kira a lot when she was younger was, you have to work. Like, you don't just get to show up and jump on the horse and ride.
Oh my gosh, I was at a barn
so much
one time.
to do.
I was at a barn one time, and I had worked for my ride. And I'll never forget, this girl pulled up, and some grooms in the barn had this horse fully dressed. I mean, saddle, boots, bridle, everything. Girl literally got out of her car, got on her horse, rode, and then handed the horse back off to the grooms and walked away. And I was like, oh my gosh. I didn't even know that was a thing. I had no idea. That was a different type of horse life than I had. I think that misconception of every horse person is very wealthy. Some, I suppose, are.
Absolutely. And it comes with the level of what you want to be into. If you just want to ride, then, it's going to cost more. But if you want to be if you want to ride and you don't have the money, then it's going to throw you into a whole nother world of stuff because you have to work. Like, you have to burn off the thing. And that is one thing that I have learned, that it's not just horse people. It's, homesteading people, farm people, horse people, all that stuff, like animal, livestock, all that. They will absolutely barter. They will trade. They will give you
get
time worked as instead of cash, because cash isn't always needed. Sometimes they just need some help.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and you get by with what you have.
Absolutely.
So like even now, I mean, I don't have the dream saddle that I want. I have a nice secondhand saddle. I
love Willow to death. You don't have the dream horse that you want.
No.
I mean, if we're being honest.
Yeah, she's a giant teddy bear that's very...
I love her to death. She's one of the greatest horses ever, and she will, no matter what you do, if you whistle, she will come over, she will say hi, she will put her head down. But, if you want to go do something pretty in the arena, she's not your horse for it.
No, she tries real hard.
Does she?
No.
As long as there's no butterflies around.
Oh, she gets so distracted. Anyway, so I guess I kind of had you would call the horse world for me like a little step into homesteading, and then
absolutely.
at a young age, and then you had that as I brought you into that.
Absolutely.
But from there, a lot of horse people do not homestead; they just stay within that lane. So, how do you learn this life? How do you dive into this life without having it as your foundation background? What do you think?
Baby steps.
I think so too.
Just like everything. You have two options. It depends on the kind of person you are, your means, all that fun stuff. You can just say, here we go, and dive full-fledged into it. Or you can slowly but surely kind of, stick your toe in the water and baby step it in. And we totally baby stepped. I mean, we were in...
still do.
Oh, absolutely. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we baby stepped. We had 6 chickens.
That's what we got married,
Yep.
and a month later, I wanted chickens desperately. We got 6 chickens.
Yep.
I remember their first eggs, like
Mm-hmm.
the golden dream that they were when they came. They were so exciting, and
Absolutely.
chickens are a gateway animal for.
Talk about gateway drug.
Oh,
Gracious
yeah.
me.
And chicken math is real, y'all. I sent him to the feed store this week to get 6 chickens. 6 because
Is that what you told me to get?
yes, 2 of each.
I blacked
kind.
out. I don't remember.
He brought him 9, which doesn't sound like a lot, except for we have 14 ducklings coming next week.
Okay, well, who did that?
We did that together after
Did we?
dinner one night.
Did we?
We surely did. We surely did. So, chickens are a gateway animal for a lot of people. But what if you don't want the animals, or what if you don't have any experience with animals? How do you learn? Well, I think everyone does that differently. I'm a big reader. I like to read. I can read very quickly. I like to digest knowledge.
I'm talking Harry Potter in a day.
And I digest.
I mean, it is scary.
I wouldn't call that knowledge. It's a good book.
No, I'm saying your proficiency at reading.
Oh,
like, it
yes.
is impressive.
So I like to digest knowledge at a rapid rate. So, homesteading books. I had a couple.
Yes.
Of course, blogs. Blogs were a big thing, and they still are in a lot of ways for me.
And podcasts. I mean, they're very helpful. And YouTube videos.
Since the baby's been around, podcasts.
Yes. Yeah.
Podcasts are a big thing because I can turn it on. I mean, just while we're outside, or like while I'm in the garden, or doing dishes,
Or doing laundry. She asks for a podcast now for doing laundry.
She does. The Bible in the air. We listen to Father Mike.
God bless.
God bless Father Mike. If anybody knows Father Mike personally, he's got a 2-year-old that God blesses him every day.
Yes, absolutely.
But so I read. How do you get through that besides me regurgitating my knowledge?
There's a lot of regurgitation because I've never read a Harry Potter book, but I have read a Harry Potter book. Because as you watch the movie, Kira will tell you every single thing that's different and how it would have happened in the book. So therefore, I've read the books. Trust me.
That was years ago. We don't even watch the movies anymore.
I know it's sad. I miss our Harry Potter weekends. But basically, yes, there's a lot of regurgitation, but I also... So Kira can consume a shocking amount of knowledge reading, like in a tiny time frame. I don't. I cannot read in that form or fashion, but I do take in knowledge in different ways. And so I do a lot of not books as much, but like internet, Googling stuff like that, or just, reverting back to, okay, well, that's a very interesting idea. How did that, like, I swear to you, I've talked about that with someone before, and I try to go back to old notes of things that I did in school, because I did go to the Ag School of Georgia, and we talked a lot about, horticulture and different things like that are very helpful for me now to this day, because it's also, like, food is something that that's like, if you're bored and you get on Facebook and you just scroll through just to see people and just see what's up because you don't know what else to do, I get it. When I'm bored, I go look at different kinds of flour or different kinds of vegetables or chickens or anything like that. Like that's what I do when I'm bored. I have an app called Flipboard that you can set your preferences on things, and I go and look at that app and I flip through different informative things for me.
You can set topics. So you have like farming, right. Homesteading. Yes. Yep. Do you have a chicken one?
I don't have a chicken one.
That would be funny. Yeah, I wonder what ones would pop up for chickens, because there's some crazy chicken stuff.
Oh, there's some crazy chicken stuff. So I mean, yes, I should add chickens. That's a good one. I'll add that. And then I've got my couple sporting events that I enjoy, and my soccer, baseball, football, and that's just a difference. It's just different people do different ways. So.
Oh yeah, and then when COVID came, we had just COVID was like, it flew us into.
It was things that we had always talked about. It just made us hit it harder and faster.
Yeah, we had the ample time and energy, especially because you were home. Yep. That we could 100% dive into all these things that we had kind of trickled into a little bit. And we had already started that. Yep. So we had canceled cable, I think, that January. Well, when COVID hit, I wanted to learn how to make bread. I think everybody wanted to learn how to make bread.
Yeah, it was kind of a thing.
So I wasn't an avid YouTube watcher. Honestly, I didn't know, I didn't even know it could get on the TV. And we just would listen to music videos. So all of a sudden, Homesteaders America hosted this, I forget what they called it, but basically a whole tutorial with all these farmers and all these people talking about food in different forms or fashion, whether it was growing it, preserving it, what else do you do with food? Selling it.
There's so many things.
Yes, vegetables, fruits, animal. I don't know if the YouTube videos are still up there, but once I started getting into that, and they used their Homesteaders of America community to create those videos, and I saw so-and-so has a whole channel with how to make bread, how to preserve fruit, all these things. I had never made jam in my entire life.
That is a good one. The jam one was a very good one, because, it's very easy to buy jam jelly at the store, but why not play with it, especially when we have, 117 freaking blueberry plants.
Okay, well,
we might as well,
I had done it last year.
Yes.
Or, the year before.
Right. Kind of, half-heartedly we had dove into it.
I did it poorly.
Right, yeah.
Well, with a little direction, reading, watching a few YouTube videos, I nailed it. Now our freezer's so full of jam, he was like, please don't make any more jam.
Well, and yes, that was true. I did, because we were so overflowed.
Happy,
but at the same time,
delicious.
It is delicious, and it's very, very good. But at the same time, I would like to eat the blueberries.
Oh yes, I'm
talking like me and Tanya are sneaking the blueberries, and she's going, "Stop eating those! I'm making jam." We have a freezer. I'm eating the blueberries.
Yeah, so there's that. But that was really my first kind of window into using YouTube, instead of it just being this weird thing for viral stuff. It can actually be very helpful. And I'm probably late to the game on that, which is kind of funny, because we were one of the first people who tried to utilize YouTube for businesses.
That is funny.
In 2010, way back when. But anyhow, so reading, blogs, articles, YouTube. Did we cover everything?
I think so.
In terms of what you can do on your own. The other really good thing is our business is not on Facebook anymore. Our farm business or whatever, our lifestyle business. It's not on Facebook anymore. We're on MeWe, But both MeWe and Facebook have groups. So instead of like, I don't even know, some group that might have a lot of drama in it or something, go find a gardening group. Go find a
absolutely.
homesteading
Yes,
group.
yeah.
I'm part of 2 homesteading groups on Facebook and then multiples on MeWe. And you're constantly hearing me say, oh my gosh, guess what I saw in this group?
Mm-hmm.
And it's the coolest stuff. I mean, there's a lot of, you got to pick through. I mean, go through. And it's not every day that something pops up that's incredible and amazing. But for the most part, I mean, word of mouth and direct communication is very helpful.
Yeah.
On that level, you can do it online, but you can also do it directly with a farmer or a gardener.
But it also gives you a community to, bounce ideas off of.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, it's the same kind of concept of, bartering and trading. I mean, these things still exist. It's still a real live, active community. So it's out there. You just gotta, spend a little effort. I mean, thankfully you use the social media things a lot better than I do, because that's a whole,
Well, you have to be very intentional about it, and you have to be
intentional.
you have to stay
Yes.
focused.
Yep.
Sometimes I find myself like, I'll only get on Facebook to look at groups. I don't have any friends that I follow or anything, because I was getting so caught up at some point.
Yep.
I was like, no, I am literally wasting time.
Yep.
So I unfollowed everything that was, sorry friends, but just noise.
Yeah.
And then I followed the things that I could learn from, and that was it. And so I very intentionally get on there to learn,
Yep.
and then I get right off
Right.
when I'm done, because you can't get caught up in all that. So the second part of all of this is, once you get your information, you can find like blogs or books that are all encompassing, especially like books. I mean, they pretty much cover the range of topic.
Yep.
But that is quickly very overwhelming.
Oh, it can be, for sure. Yeah, you've got to. That's why I think that we're a good kind of case study, because, I mean, we've been together since we were 14. I mean, we clearly, we get along very well. I mean, she's my best friend in the world, but we do things very differently. I mean, just in the whole learning, because it's not only, I don't learn things and talk about them all the time. I mean, like, Kira can bring them into her brain, and then she's got to get them out, and she wants to talk about them.
And then you have to do it right then.
Right, immediately. And I'm a very auditory learner, to where, I mean, half the stuff that she's talking about, like, yeah, absolutely, okay, cool. And she, it may seem like I'm not listening, but nope, I got it. I could probably, like, repeat it to you word for word. I mean, I do my best to keep up, and
I'm not. You have to draw things for me. You have to.
I mean, like, literally, like, we have a pad sitting on the counter, so that when we're having discussions and we can't speak the same language, I'm like, okay, wait a minute, or she says, wait, just draw it, and so I have to draw it out, or she has to draw it out because she doesn't feel like she's getting her point across, so she needs to draw it out so that I can fully see it. I mean,
This is anything from garden beds to chicken coop designs to
dinner.
No, stop it.
Recipes, absolutely.
Recipes?
Sometimes you want to draw them out and tell me exactly, this is the recipe I read.
You mean
This is
write
how it
them
comes.
out?
Yes, whatever.
Draw a picture of our dinner plate.
Is it not putting it on a plate? It's putting it down on a piece of paper to
Yeah.
get it out of your brain.
Yeah.
When I could just listen to you say it, but you need to put it down on something. And I get
Right.
that. I mean, it's different people, different ways
So
that
how
our
do
brains
you
work.
stay not overwhelmed by me talking so much?
I love you. You're cute. I don't want
Okay.
to get overwhelmed.
Well, that was what the point we were making, and then you said that.
No, you were talking about being overwhelmed. I don't get overwhelmed with it.
No,
I mean, I think it's great. I mean, absolutely.
Okay.
Bring all the knowledge in, like, spread the knowledge, spread the wealth. I'll keep what, is important to me and what sticks with me. And then, as we work through it, it's also just diving into it. I mean, there's a stick your toe in the water and don't get overwhelmed with it. But then there's also bring in some information and then kind of push your limits. We started with 6 chickens. Then we got 2 ducks, Gordon and Bombay. Mm-hmm. They were the best. Do you get it? Think about it. Great names for ducks. And then Gordon had to go. He was being a little bit hateful. And then Bombay, unfortunately, passed because she was old and she was a Pekin duck. We did not know any better, but she was not going to last very long because they're not made to last very long. And then from there, those were 2 ducks. We learned a lot with Gordon and Bombay about the differences in ducks and chickens.
And coexisting. We'll do a whole podcast.
Oh,
on
absolutely.
coexisting
In the numbers and the ages and the way you introduce them and the way you bring them up and all sorts of stuff like that. But at the same time, a lot of people say, chickens are nasty. I'll tell you right now, if you think chickens are nasty, get some ducks.
No, don't get ducks if you think chickens are a
Oh, that's
handful.
right, exactly, yes. Because seriously, we have baby chicks right now, and we have to check on them 2-3 times a day.
They're so easy.
That's the easiest thing in the world. Are you kidding me?
The
Baby
ducklings
ducks, you got to
naturally-
check every 45 minutes because they might have flipped the water. They might have busted
And
this. They might be soaking wet.
get freezing
Right,
and die.
right,
and,
right. Because at some point, the ducks who are waterproof are not waterproof. They're
Not
not
as
waterproof in the
babies.
babies.
Not as
They
babies.
will absorb water.
Anyway, you're
It's
going
crazy.
down that tangent path.
Oh,
of
right.
ducks
That's
and
another
chickens.
blogcast.
But that is a good example of, I went to the feed store while he was out of town.
I was in Macon at a trade show.
I got Mama to drive me so I could hold the ducks and cuddle them on the way home from Statesboro, which is about an hour away. And he came home and I said, "We got ducks." And there was a big learning curve. And of course I read about ducks. But it doesn't change what you learn from experience
Right.
personally.
Right.
And now, with I don't even know how many ducks we have, we had an issue.
More than 2.
Yeah. We had an issue with egg production the past
Yes,
few months.
we
And we've
did.
been trying to figure that out. And we've had ducks for years. We've never had an egg production problem.
Nope.
So we were trying to figure all of
Flipping
that
mallards.
out. Yes. And I think we switched. Anyway.
Yeah,
we switched
exactly.
foods and it messed
Blah,
them
blah,
up.
blah. We're getting there.
It messed them up.
Yeah.
So
we can do that podcast when we discover how to make them lay like they were.
we will. So my point is, when you're going to do something, like he said, don't be scared to dive. Don't be timid. And you have to think things through, but you can just dive in on a lot of things. Now, in terms of getting chickens, don't put the cart before the horse. You need a secure coop. You need a brooder and heat lamp and the right chick feed and water.
Honestly, starting with adult chickens might be your best bet.
For a lot of things,
For
it
a
might
lot of
be.
things. Yes,
it's
absolutely. But
I've
babies are
always,
difficult.
always wanted a foal. I have always wanted to raise a baby horse.
Yep.
It has been a thing on my list since I was a child. I have a book that I bought when I was younger.
We still have the
that
book.
we still have it, and it's not a children's book. It's a real book on
Right.
how to raise a foal. And I still want to do that one day, maybe, because they are just not so easy.
Oh, they're not?
Even the sweet, nice ones that are very docile, not the easiest thing to do. So you also know your limits. Like if I was to get a foal right now, that wouldn't work.
No.
The little thing would turn into a nightmare because
Right, because we do not have the proper time.
or setup or
Right. To give that foal to bring it to the
Right. Of course, I'd need a mare that I would want to breed, and then there's that breeding, adopting. That whole thing is
Right, there's a whole nother.
yeah.
realm.
So but there may be dreams that you have that you'll get there
Yes.
one day.
Give it time.
And the whole land thing, a lot of people say I can't homestead. I don't have land.
Oh, you don't
Okay.
need land.
You don't really need
No.
land.
No.
Depending on what you want. Now, horses, yes, require
Yes.
land.
Oh, right.
Cow
Check your
requires land.
government regulations.
Yes.
Blah, blah, blah.
There are things that do require
Absolutely.
land. And cows and horses can live on hay. So according to your animal ordinances, if they say 1 acre for a horse, you can have a horse. You have to bring in hay and grain, but they are perfectly happy and survive unless, of course, they have allergies and the hay disrupts their allergies. But for other animals, chickens, ducks, there are our animal ordinances have changed since we moved
Oh, yes,
here.
they have. Absolutely.
But it was required 2 acres for ducks and 1 acre for horse. I always thought that was so funny. It was so funny to me. I'm like, why do ducks need more? And it's because they're loud.
It's because of the noise.
The females are loud. We got them in our suburban backyard, and nobody complained, thankfully. But she was loud.
Oh, yeah.
The males, they're wispy.
Right,
They don't
yeah,
really.
they're
Yes, they don't. The females they wake you up in the morning. They're
Oh,
loud.
absolutely. And they're a good 100 yards away from the bedroom, and they wake you up in the morning.
The geese are a different kind of loud. And the guinea,
The geese are a bit of a screech.
the guinea,
So-
she's another level of loud.
I know, but she's the best.
She's pretty cool. But, what were we going to say?
That she's the best.
Oh, okay. So, don't let what you have limit you. If you're in an apartment,
Well, just get creative. Absolutely.
get creative.
Yeah.
Do you have space for a patio
Hydroponics.
garden? Or hydroponics. Even if you can't be outside,
Right.
you can do a hydroponics or an herb garden in your window.
Yep.
And, okay, is an herb garden in your window considered homesteading?
Yes. It's a mindset.
It's a mindset.
I-
We covered that a few episodes
I
back.
believe it is, because if nothing else, you're just trying to. It's not about producing 100% of your own food. It's not about producing all that, giving back to the earth and all that stuff. I mean, it is. That's all facets of it. But it's genuinely just yourself, giving yourself a connection to what you're doing, getting your hands in the dirt, giving yourself a connection to your food. I mean, and that could just be the herbs. Maybe you just have a windowsill in your kitchen and you can grow some herbs right there. That's perfect. Bravo. I mean, that's incredible. I mean, seriously, good for you, because if you can get them and use them and keep it going, I mean, that's all we're looking for. Or not us, but I mean, that's all that could be plenty for you. And the thought of chickens is just no. I get it. I mean, chickens are a lot.
Chickens could really live in your house though, like one or two. They could.
Other than pooping everywhere, yes.
No, not like out, like in like a nice cage.
Yeah, no, I get you. Yeah,
like a nice setup.
absolutely. Yes, they really could.
And
I mean, they're
feed them all your kitchen scraps, and I mean, we compost a lot of our scraps. But
Yep.
we feed the ones that are edible to them or the dogs. They like them too. The dogs don't give us any good waste though. They give us all the
They just give us pure joy.
yeah. They just like it, but.
It's true. They get it because they like it. That's another
So,
reason.
apartment, look, there are so many things out there for ideas for any situation that you may be in. So, if the land is what's constraining you in your mind from starting, okay, stop.
Just stop.
stop.
Right.
You're overthinking it.
Yeah. Start small.
Start small.
Start with a tiny little pot.
You may have 100 acres and you may be scared to start or not know where to start. And from there, that's where I was saying don't try to absorb all the knowledge at all times. You're never going to absorb all the knowledge. That's the best part about this lifestyle.
Well, it changes.
It changes and you're constantly learning. And you're at the mercy of the weather and your
That's so true.
your climate
Yes.
and
Yeah.
your land and its profile. So all of that sounds kind of scary, but it's actually kind of fun if you allow it to be fun. See it as like a challenge instead of a negative.
Well, it also gives you, if you're worried about, the weather and your plants and getting stuff inside and doing all that stuff, by the time you get all that handled, you may not have time to sit down and binge something.
That's the thing.
You may
Right.
genuinely. I mean, it's almost 10:00, and when we're done with this, I might go sleep because I'm tired. We had a lot of stuff to do today, and that's good. I mean, you get up with the chickens, you go down with the chickens. I mean,
Right. Right. So
it will kind of alter, those kinds of mindsets as well. That'll help you.
see
at least
where-
helps me.
you see where you can utilize time. And
Yep,
of course,
and brain
you want to.
power.
We talk about that in a past episode. What was that? Busy one? Where you schedule in your time for fulfillment.
Yeah.
If you need to. You make sure you don't skimp on that time. But other ones that, if you're scrolling through social media is such a waste of time. You could find 30 minutes to walk outside and pick lettuce.
Oh, yes.
And
yeah.
you could trade out that time.
Yeah.
But so
That's true.
in terms of where to begin, it's a very personal question. Obviously, we've told you where we started. It was with horses. And then
Which
chickens.
was kind of backwards.
Well, we got the chickens before we ever started any real gardening.
Oh, for sure.
And the gardening, I was all about the flowers. I didn't
Always.
really
Always
food.
by the far. But that
Food's
was
always at the grocery store. Why do I need to grow food? That's hard. That seems too much. It's a lot of rules. I wasn't gonna do it.
the rules. Gracious me, the rules drove you crazy more than anything.
I thought there were a lot of rules.
Right.
It's just not the case. Yes, there are growing seasons, which
But other
is
than
common
that,
sense to me
it's,
now. I didn't realize that until a few years ago. But you learn there are things that help your annuals, perennials grow better, edible things. But there are no hard and set rules. For example, we went to a farm last week. We went out to a farm.
Was that only last week?
It was. They had 1,000 strawberries for
1,000
yes.
strawberries.
Y'all, if you would like to know a little bit about us, just listen to this story. Whoops. So I see it on Facebook. As I'm saying, don't scroll, but I saw it on Facebook and follow this farm because I learned from them. And they had 1,000 strawberries for sale. $150 for 1,000 strawberries. And I was like, oof, $150 for strawberries. That seems like a lot. You get strawberries from the store when they're not in season for tiny, and
She loves them.
she loves them. She said today they were juicy.
They were juicy. She was
Juicy.
red-faced. She gave me a kiss when I got home, and she tasted like strawberries.
So I thought, well, that's kind of a lot. But it was 1,000 strawberries, and I knew it would do well in this climate. It wasn't something at a big box store that you don't know for sure if they've actually picked for your climate or not. So I was like really excited. So I texted him a screenshot. So what do you think? I'm thinking about a call and buy these strawberries. And he was like, okay. So I called. It was the sweetest little old farming couple. They'd been doing it. Their great-great-great-grandparents had that land. And the lady was like, oh, yeah, what are you going to do with them? I don't have it. We don't have fields. We don't have strawberry fields.
No.
I said, well, I'm going to put them all in my flower beds. And y'all, it went quiet on the other line. Like, she just went quiet. And she goes, well, honey, I don't know if that's going to work, but I'm excited to see another strawberry farm. I'm like, yeah, it's just at my house. And, you know.
We'll buy it.
So we go out. They're sweet as can be. And the farmer is telling me his entire he is sharing this wealth of knowledge with me that he has learned over the years to perfect strawberry growing. And I'm listening intently, and he's just going on and on. And he said, now what do you have the space for this? And I said, no.
No. Not even close.
There are 1,000 strawberry roots in this box.
For the record, sir, you don't have the space for the 1,000 strawberries. That's why you sold them.
Well, he had probably 6,000 in the ground.
Right?
But he had extra, yes.
And he's on a couple hundred acres, and he didn't have that room for the extra 1,000.
Well, he had the whole setup.
We're
It was a
screwed.
U-pick. It was a huge thing. So I tell him what we're going to do with them. I'm going to put them in my beds, and I'm going to heavily mulch them. And he goes, that ain't going to work.
Yeah. Yeah, I believe what he said was, what you're trying to do here is a waste of time.
And money, $150 for 1,000 strawberries. And you're a good sport, because I think you got excited about them as much as I did eventually, but at first I'm sure you were like, what?
Yeah, no, whatever.
So, anyhow.
These things don't affect me anymore.
This farmer, wealth of knowledge, I mean, had to be in his mid-80s, right?
At least.
He shares all of this with me. I don't have the setup. I don't have the tools. I don't have anything that he has. And I said, well, I'm just going to put them in the ground and heavily mulch them and hope for the best. And he goes, okay, good luck. You might get one or two. Oh, gosh. So, next spring.
We already got leaves.
Yeah, next spring we'll let you know. Or next summer.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. We'll follow up and let you know if we get any strawberries.
And I'm really hoping they live for more than 1 year that we spend on
I'm really hoping that we have to post an ad to you pick strawberries because we got too many.
That's why our friends come and pick blueberries because we have so many flipping blueberries. But we didn't start out that way.
Help. No.
And so that's I don't even. How did I get on that team?
I don't know. You just want to tell everybody about strawberries.
Oh, I did. I'm so excited about these strawberries. But you start with things that matter to you. So blueberries
that's basically the whole point is, if you want a chicken, you can try chicken. If you want herbs, do that. You want squash. I mean, and we've just expanded into everything else, but basically blueberries were your gateway plant because
Yes, because what do you
you
like?
had nothing but flowers and nothing but any of that stuff, but then you love blueberries. You were the biggest blueberry snob I've ever met in my life.
If they don't pop and taste sourish to me, they're bad, and I will not eat them. That is disgusting.
Disgusting?
Disgusting.
Really?
No, I don't
That's
like
the word
them.
you're going
I'm
with?
sorry. Let me think of another word. Unacceptable.
There you go.
So, blueberries were my thing. I wanted fresh blueberries. So, how do you get fresh blueberries? You grow them. And our climate in southeast Georgia is perfect for growing blueberries. So,
Perfect.
not only perfect, I mean, I'm telling you, like, I can take roots from the blueberries that have been established here, which was one of the reasons we loved this place when we were looking
Absolutely.
to buy it, because they had established blueberries. Of course, I've added probably 50 more, but
You've at least quadrupled the blueberries.
because you need two, if you're thinking about blueberries, you need
Yes,
two different.
you need 2 different kinds of blueberries. So we planted 70 different kinds of
I was
blueberries.
wondering why you're talking over me for this. It was to make a point. Got it. I was like, do you know more about blueberries now than I do?
I do, absolutely.
Okay.
We have pink lemonade blueberries. We have...
They need to cross-pollinate. That is the important part. So they need to be somewhat close together, like, so that they can be cross-pollinated. Anyway, so now I'm at a point where I can take their roots, like the extra little plants that come off the mother plant of the blueberries, and I just spread them everywhere. Like, in 10 years' time,
Oh.
I don't know if we'll still be doing this podcast, but this is going to be a blueberry farm.
It will be.
It already is.
It could be a blueberry farm in 5 years.
We have so many blueberries that we physically cannot pick them all ourselves now.
No, we have to call in reinforcements.
We do. But then I don't like to see them leave the farm.
That is the funniest
Sharing
part.
is hard.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. That
blueberries
we
is so
physically
hard.
cannot pick them all, and we need help. And so we call people, and then they leave, and she's like, I mean, did you see how many
And
blueberries?
every single time we go to a plant sale, we come home with a blueberry. Every single time.
Which is just fascinating.
I can't say no to blueberries. So blueberries might not be your thing, but think about what you like to eat. That is the number one thing I think people don't realize or do. If you hate squash, don't plant squash.
Oh, eggplant.
If you don't want to do
Oof.
the upkeep of annuals take a lot of work.
Yeah, they do.
Find
Yes, they do.
perennials. The whole food forest permaculture thing that we've been really learning about and diving into the past few years, those are perennial edible
Yeah, absolutely.
plants.
Yep.
So perennial, if you're not sure, means they live for longer than a year, typically multiple years. So I'm so excited. We got our asparagus in the ground last year.
Oh, they're coming up, too.
And it takes 3 years for them to get established before
Is
you
it
can...
3?
It's 3
I
years.
thought it was 2. I thought this was the year.
Nope. We have 2 more years
Sad.
before you can actually harvest them. Okay. But once you can, you'll have asparagus for 20 plus years. So, like, yes, I might have spent $150 on strawberries that won't be perennials, and I'll be sad if that. But think about,
It's worth a shot.
are you going to save money growing your asparagus if they grow for 20 plus years? I probably spent $30 on those baby asparagus last year.
Yes. In 7 years, we will save money.
Yes. I'm just saying, you're thinking long term here. And if you're not in a space that you can't think long term, think in pots.
Yeah.
So you just have to think about.
And it's always not about saving money. Sometimes it's just about getting your brain and your mindset and your connection to all of it. And that's okay.
Nourishing your body with goodness, good, rich food that's straight from the earth. So there's a lot of facets to what is your why, I think. Which we talked about that on the homesteading episode. But for how to get started, when you've never had this as your past or your foundation, why do you want to do it?
And sometimes it's just that little voice inside you telling you to do it.
Yes.
Sometimes
and that's when
you want to make, you want to
baby
have fresh
step.
chives.
Yes, exactly. So
Who knows?
that's where, okay, let me lay this all out. Number one, how much land you have shouldn't matter that much.
No.
You have constraints in terms of animals, and you can't have.
do what you can do within your means.
Exactly,
Yeah.
within your limits, and don't let that be why you don't start at all. Number two, when you do finally start, be careful not to get fully overwhelmed. It's good to have a big picture and a goal. We have big dreams for this place. We always have. Some have already come. They've already been checked.
We've checked a couple boxes. Got a lot more.
We have a lot more. We're never going to get to a place when we're done because we love projects and we've
never been done with anything.
We've never been done with anything because once we do it, then if we're all done, we'll go back and do it again and make it better because by that time we know how to make it better. So have your big picture goals, but then also be able to hone in on, I like blueberries. I'm going to plant blueberry plants. Like,
sometimes it is that simple.
It is. I'm going to read about them. I'm going to learn about them. What do they need? You know what else I like? Kiwis. Now, hardy kiwis will grow here, but normal kiwis, they don't grow here. Avocados, they don't grow here. No. So know your limits within your climate, too. You have to learn those things. I didn't know that winter squash grew in the summer. Who knew?
I mean, that's
like my running joke because when I told our hay farmer, he snorted and laughed at me so hard. I was like, I didn't grow up like this.
Right. The hell's so funny? And he said, that's not when you're supposed to grow. Oh. Well.
So, luckily, I was not offended.
Thanks for
telling us. I
laughed
with them.
Oh, right. Yeah. So we all laughed together.
Yes.
Still
but,
funny.
You know, here's a man who's farmed his whole life, and I'm telling him.
We are idiots.
No, but he appreciates that we try.
Oh, absolutely.
And
he would never say that we were idiots. It was just more of a oh, right.
Duh.
Yeah, exactly.
So, anyhow, focus on the things that really matter to you. Do you want fresh eggs? Do you want fresh milk? I mean, if you have room for a milking cow, I'd love a milking cow one day. Right now in life, it doesn't make sense. Right. It's a goal.
Right.
So we need a little milking station. We'll need all the things that come with that. It's not just that's the other part of it. You can say, I want an annual vegetable garden. Okay. Well, more often than not, just planting it straight in the ground, you have to add to the soil. You have to make sure everything's going to work. And those are those rules that people are like, oh, gosh.
And expect to fail.
That's true.
I mean, just because. I mean, you might have a great year the first year, and then the second year, sophomore slump, and you just, no production. Like, what in the world? Well, maybe you need to refresh the soil. Maybe you need to add nutrients in which you took last year. I mean, who knows? There's a million different reasons, but just, expect to fail, and that's part of the challenge, honestly. I mean, it's what keeps you researching, keeps you studying, keeps you at it.
Well, and every animal's different in different ways, and every year for the garden is different. Some years, some things do great, other years they don't. So know that that's going to be the case, too. So overall, I keep using the blueberries as an example because it was I want edibles. And it was fruit trees and blueberries were my thing. Yeah. Before I started diving into the perennial edibles and then the lower level plants and then the annual edibles. So I could just say I'm gonna plant that. But if I just planted it in full shade and wondered why I didn't get blueberries, well then, you have to know it needs sun or even some part sun they do okay with. So. Or part shade. Those are things that you have to learn if you don't already know. And you might mess up. I've moved blueberry plants before where I had them in the wrong place. Oh, yeah. And I've lost plants before. They've died because I made a mistake. And yes, that's wasted money, and that was frustrating to me because I lost a whole plant of production. But I learned, and then I adjusted. And that's part of all of this. I think that part is whether or not you grew up with this as a foundation, whether or not you can adapt and move forward is a big part of it. Yep. So if you have those skills already, then you're ready.
Yeah.
You can.
And maybe you need to refine those skills in other aspects of your life. This is a great place to try it. I mean, seriously, the whole horse thing, I'll never get over the confidence in which you can gain from dealing with a horse. I mean, this thing is 10 times your size, your weight, your everything, and you've got to control it. I mean, that is a whole nother level of confidence and connection and all sorts of other stuff.
Control in a
right.
very...
But the growing, I think, is the same thing.
You ask for them to basically do what you're asking of them, and and they choose whether or not to do it. I can't control her any more than I can control the weather, but I can ask her, and if we've done our correct groundwork training, hopefully she will respond with what I'm asking. And a lot of times she doesn't. She chases butterflies. Literally, my horse will literally follow butterflies while we're riding, to the point where I'm like, hello, will you please come back, redirect. So I think we've covered most of it on how you dive into this life when you've never been in it before. And once you get in it, I think
you might hate it and you might run away. And that's okay too.
Yeah, and that's where the baby steps come in. Because if you don't take out a huge loan to make this huge operation, and you just baby step into it, if I got chickens and I hated them, you can sell your chickens.
Or eat them.
Or that. If you start a garden one year and, like, you would...
this is miserable, don't do it again.
Yeah. If it's too hot, too hard, you'd rather buy from the grocery store, then, I mean, you don't have that much input into it. You have your time and your effort, but in terms of, like, a lot of money, don't put, like, we wouldn't buy this huge milking parlor thing.
Yeah, baby steps.
Yes, baby step. So there's that, and I feel like you had one more thought.
I have lots of thoughts. I don't remember exactly where they were. I mean, I thought we were doing very well.
No, we are. Staying on topic today.
I mean, just it's like a little bit overwhelming for me that we're just sticking on one topic. It's impressive.
Well, what random thing would you like to talk about?
What shall we talk about?
Got it. Okay. So, in terms of money, we did a budgeting podcast, and apparently that was part 1 because it has been requested to do a part 2.
We're definitely going to need a part 2.
Of getting more nitty-gritty and exactly how we do it. Of course, with anything that we talk about, we can tell you all day long how we do it, and that could be totally different for you and not apply to you at all.
Yes. Correct.
But the whole purpose of this is because we have learned some lessons, and we hope that we can be of assistance to you. And, of course, we're also still learning, so we might as well bring you along with us.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I would say that if you have that inkling in your heart and your mind that you want to become a homesteader.
Your soul. I mean, seriously, it's like a thing that just kind of drags you. I mean, it just constantly pokes at you.
Whether it is you want the companionship of the animals, whether you want to eat them, whether you want to grow your own food, whether you want to just piddle in the garden and put things away, whether you want to be a homemaker or bake bread or all the things combined, do it.
Well, pick a little spot, a tiny little point, and start right there.
Yep.
And whatever that point is for you is going to be different from what it was for us or for, that person over there. So just pick that point and give it a shot and see what happens. And
understand that self-sufficiency has become a buzzword, I think. No one is truly self-sufficient to the point where there is no outside source coming in.
That's not true. Some people probably are.
Well, I don't know those people, but they're very savvy.
I mean...
But even in history, way back in history, you relied on communities.
Absolutely.
Like one person had the wheat and the other person had, the horse. I don't know. Bad example.
The wheat and the chickens.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, bad example.
It was perfect. No, that person has a horse, and I need that horse.
I meant like for the cart to cut.
I knew what you meant.
It's because I was just watching that Victorian farm.
Oh, I knew where you were going.
Somebody had to bring their horse in,
and everybody shared the horse because everybody had a Gwen, and it was just part of it.
Right.
I get it.
Yeah. So anyhow, we hope this has been helpful. Let
us know if you have any questions.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. We hope that you feel comfortable coming to us with any questions. We're happy to answer them as best as we can. There's no right or wrong.
There's no right or wrong.
I mean,
honestly, whatever question you come with us, we'll probably be like, I don't know, try it.
I mean, don't kill your animals unless you're intending to.
Well, just give them basic care, food, water, space.
Find what they need to eat.
Absolutely.
Sheep do not eat horse grain. things that you
Right,
need to know
right.
before you get an
The
animal.
bag says cat food for a reason.
Goats need fences that are very high. They can jump high. These are things that you may not know.
Yes. A simple Google search will give you most of your information.
Exactly. So if you're diving into a situation like that with an animal, make sure you know beforehand. Now, with a garden, you can be a little more forgiving because if you kill a plant, it's not the same as killing an animal
That's
on
just
accident.
wrong. I can't believe you'd say that.
Shut up. So it's a little more forgiving, but a lot of people are scared. They don't want to jump into that because I was. So
Oh,
that's a lot of work.
the failure factor it will create anxiety, but honestly, that's the fun part. I mean, figuring it out and navigating the whole process is the fun part.
And that is one of the fun parts. But the other fun part is that food tastes
It's pretty
real
legit.
good.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Real good. So it's one of those things where we are happy to answer any of your questions, but it's also up to you to put one foot in front of the other and go down the path of homesteading, homemaking, this simple way of life in your terms and in your way. So we wish you the best of luck.
Yes.
Thank you as always for listening, and we hope you'll have a good day. Bye.
Bye.